This video tells the story of a 2-season, traitorous, sad, and heartbreaking show called Roxy SMP Reborn, which has been reigning on my channel for a little while now. This is a preparation for my newer viewers for the 3rd season. However, to get the full details of the series, you will have to watch all of the episodes. But without further ado, let's get into it. First, you should know a bit about the characters. Roxy is my character, and the protagonist of the show. He is sort of the uber lawful good Blaze human who is kind of hypocritical because he will attack you if you commit the littlest of crimes. Next there is Faye. She is an elemental witch who was a criminal earlier in her life but came to the town to start anew. She's the antagonist, but as later explained, it may not seem that way. Enderblaze is a half Blaze, half Enderman who mainly goes by Ender. He's pretty neutral but also causes some chaos. Doe is his daughter, who is a spirit bear person, and she is a kind, peaceful soul. KJ is who you will next meet, and he is a dark warlock infected with some kind of nether virus. Nokia comes in later, and he is a ratfolk warlock, although it is unknown what type he is. A few more characters spring up later on, such as Marling, a spell and a chicken gone wrong that makes a chicken person, Fishy, a walking, talking axolotl, and Ash, who is Faye's childhood friend and another warlock. As the story unfolds, you will find out more about them. The beginning was peaceful. The town, called Reborn City, was a modern living space and was all set up for the arrival of newcomers. Roxy, Faye, Doe, and Ender all somehow meet in the town hall as if arriving at a similar time. They introduce themselves and tour the town to see what it has to offer. As they begin to settle in, strange things start to happen. Blocks start disappearing or being switched out for strange new ones, and random gifts even start showing up. The only thing anyone saw was the little girl with light blue hair. She doesn't seem to speak to them, so the group calls her the NPC. They also meet KJ, who lives in a hut next to the police station. As time goes on, Faye realizes that NPCs can't build structures or do any of the human-like things that this, quote, NPC was doing. They conclude that she is a ghost, and when she finally starts speaking to them, that seems to be accurate. The girl doesn't know who she is, how old she is, or even basic knowledge. They decide she is 12 years old and they name her Ghosty. Ghosty seems to be very fond of KJ, and she also becomes good friends with Faye. As time goes on, the rest of the group begins to get well acquainted with one another and are even becoming close friends. Although she seems to not be very open about her life, one thing Faye was open about was that she was an elemental witch. She even taught Roxy and Ender all about witches and warlocks. But when an open house tour of the police station happens the very next day, things go awry. The group decides they want to get a tour of the police station. Faye seems reluctant and decides to just focus on the construction of her house. After touring the rooms, the group discovers the book of criminals located behind the front desk. It doesn't seem to be blocked off, so they check it out. They find mostly what they would expect in there. It was mainly criminals with minor crimes that faced their time and were released. The last page the group got to read, Faye, last name unknown, age 18, charges, forbidden magic, arson, theft, and manslaughter. It went on to say that she had not paid her penalties and was highly wanted. Roxy quickly realized that this was the witch he had called friend and was mad. He immediately ran to confront her because he felt she was hiding from him. Faye was upset about his reaction and his finding out because it was in the past and she didn't feel he had the right to know about the things that were behind her. She also came to this town to build a new life and she thought Roxy would be her friend, but he was just like every human she had ever met. Amidst all the chaos and arguments, Nokia shows up and is temporarily calming because both want to make a good first impression. Soon, everyone is invited to a tour of Ghosty's huge castle that they didn't even know existed. Roxy and Faye didn't even fight during it, and everything seemed to go back to normal. That was until Roxy pulled Faye aside after coming back from the tour. He puts an axe to her neck and begins arguing with her because he feels betrayed. Faye doesn't understand why he's doing this because in her mind they had made up. The argument turns violent as swords come out, ultimately ending in Roxy dying at the hands of Faye in front of the whole town. Roxy wakes up in a garden where he's greeted by Faye and a mysterious girl. He's confused why he's seeing Faye in a place that looks nothing like what the town does. Turns out, it wasn't Faye at all. It was the Angel of Death. He was in a sort of memory lane where he walked through his memories from the past month and saw what he had seen and heard then. Turns out, everyone gets 5 lives to make sure they have a long, healthy life. These memories are meant for them to learn from their mistakes. After walking through this ethereal garden of sorts, he is sent home. He goes and looks for the only person who he thought cared about his death, Nokia. When they met, they began conspiring on how they would defend themselves against Faye. They decide to officially team up with Nokia as Roxy's general in case she starts a war. They decide to first confront her before doing anything to give her one last chance to face repercussions for her crimes. In their eyes, she didn't even seem to listen to what they had to say. She says that she had already served sentences for her crimes, but they don't even know if they could believe that. Nokia makes the decision against Roxy's judgment to kill Faye's llama Millie. Faye loves this llama and Millie is all she has left. Nokia used this to his advantage to cause mental anguish to Faye without causing physical pain. Although it did work in making her upset, she then got super mad and she even blamed Roxy, who didn't want a part in it. This whole event made Faye feel so unsafe that she asked KJ to be her bodyguard, which he agreed to do. Roxy believed that this was her first step into starting a war, and he warned her that he will start war if she keeps building these defenses. Roxy and Nokia decide to plan a fake theft to trick KJ into leaving so that Roxy can swoop in and arrest Faye. It worked like a charm and she was in the obsidian cells in no time. They kept a watch over the police station from Nokia's apartment balcony to make sure she stayed locked up. When they turned their backs, fire appeared at the entrance. They rushed down to see what the commotion was about and they found out Faye had escaped. At this point, Faye was tired of trying to be peaceful with Roxy. She placed TNT throughout the prison and the station and blew it up. This was truly the last straw for Faye, and she declared war on Roxy and Nokia. After Faye's declaration, both sides began scrambling to get war preparations in place. They started to map out routes, get armor, and make themselves as equipped as possible for battle. Once the two duos met, Faye and KJ immediately began shooting arrows tipped with fire. Roxy and Nokia tried to fight them off, but the opposing duo was too powerful. They decided to put their other plan into place. Draw Faye out of the hospital where they were fighting and make it seem like it was a one-on-one battle between Roxy and Faye. Then Nokia would sneak up to the roof of the hospital, plant TNT, and stand his ground. This plan was meant to distract KJ so that they could get the upper hand. And in their minds, KJ's armor was supposed to be strong enough to withstand powerful blows. Nokia lit the TNT and ran, so he did not get hurt, but KJ was not so lucky. He was right in the center, and although his armor was strong, it was not strong enough to withstand the power that shot out from those explosives. KJ had died and his blood was on Roxy and Nokia's hands. This upset Faye to a whole nother level. She accused them of being true criminals. As they continued to argue, Nokia suddenly disappeared from Roxy's view. He was presumably teleported to Faye and killed on sight. This only angered Roxy and just caused more arguing. After Nokia and KJ got their respective visits to the ethereal garden, they came back. When KJ runs back to Faye's house, she is working on a new creation for the war. She does a spell on a chicken in hopes of getting a super strong one. Faye seemed to have miscalculated the spell because the chicken turns human, which becomes Faye's son, who she named Marley. At this point, Ghosty was in town and brought a temporary pause in the war because everyone needed to be calm around her. Calm soon disappears when Faye urges Roxy and his pet dog Luna to leave his home. She begins to place TNT all over and then lights it, destroying everything he had in his home. This scares Ghosty and she quickly flees. Over the next few days, Faye starts taking everything from Roxy and Nokia. Their weapons, armor, and food all go missing or get destroyed. Faye later confronts Nokia at his hut. She blamed him for all the issues because everything was perfect until he showed up. She also pushes him to use his magic on her, but she can tell he is not very strong. After fighting through the night and into the day, Roxy finds them. He immediately waves a white flag and surrenders the war. Nokia is mad because he thought he had her, but Roxy didn't believe it. They finally signed a treaty that protects all parties from each other. Faye is finally happy because this is what she wanted from the start. After this tiring day, Faye decides she wants to go get some blaze rods from the nether. After doing some convincing and telling Faye that the blazes don't like her anymore, Roxy tags along too. After getting some rods, they come across a mysterious figure. After closer investigation, Faye discovers it's her childhood friend, Ash, who she thought was dead. Faye rejoiced. Her friend, who she thought was dead, was here. This means that potentially the rest of her town might be alive, and according to Ash, they are. As time goes on, Ash also becomes good friends with Roxy and actually tells him something he didn't even tell Faye. He tells Roxy the whole thing about Faye's family and village being alive was a lie that was just used to keep Faye happy. Even though Roxy knows it wasn't right, he promises to keep Ash's secret. After Ash settled in, there began to be some tension between Fishy, an axolotl person found in Faye's pet shop during the war, and Marling, because they apparently had a past where their two species had a war. Turns out Fishy is more crazy and violent than he seems on the outside, and Marling just hates him. They both go away for a little while to collect their thoughts. The rest of the group decides to go on a trip because Faye needed Ender Rob. While on their journey, they stumble upon a ruined town that turns out to be Faye and Ash's childhood village. Although it is bloodstained and wrecked, their houses are still somewhat intact. Faye even finds her old spirit guide, Lake, still waiting for her to come home. She also finds her dad's old journal, which, as you probably already know, didn't bring her good news. She played it off like everything was fine, but the others were concerned as she rushed to get them home. The next morning, Faye seems on edge, and she actually kicks Ash out of her home. She even treats a new member, Aiden, who is half ice and half fire, like a better friend than Ash. Roxy and Nokia shows Ash to a room in the apartment complex, and they go to bed. Roxy wakes up very early, and something just feels off. He steps outside to take a walk, and all of a sudden his vision goes dark, and everything starts spinning. The next thing he knows, he wakes up in a cage next to the other members, who have their own respective cages. After waking up a bit more, Roxy notices that Ash is in a hanging cage. Soon Faye arrives, and she seems to have gone insane. She reveals that she found out that Ash lied and he was gonna pay for it. She lit the area below his cage with magic fire. She pulls a lever and the bottom of the cage drops from out beneath, sending him straight to death with fire. Faye then releases everyone one by one except the person who supposedly helped her. It turns out that person was Nokia. Roxy was betrayed and he couldn't understand why Nokia would side with her. Nokia tried to tell Roxy that he didn't, but Roxy didn't know what to believe. He and Marling decided to plan what they were going to do for this crime that Faye and Nokia committed. When Marling brings up an old tradition for punishment, Faye and Nokia run. Before everyone else reaches them, they get to Faye's house where she puts up a border that no one can get in or out unless they are Nokia or Faye. At this point, everyone feels betrayed. Marling doesn't understand why his mom would do this, and Roxy feels the same about Nokia. When Ash comes back from the garden, he confides in Roxy that he blames himself and that Faye might have been right to react the way she did. Roxy tries to assure him that it wasn't his fault. After confronting Faye and Nokia, Roxy continues to talk with Ash. During their conversation, Marling barges in and they all rush to his lair. There, the group comes up with a plan to spy on Nokia and Faye to see what they are up to. They find out that the fire Faye used on Ash makes him feel the burning eternally, even after dying and coming back. They continue to spy, but it wasn't long before Faye finds them. This is because Marling's emotions overcame him and he began to attack. The group quickly flees and they are also slightly mad at Marling because he didn't follow the plan. The following day, Faye trains Nokia to harness his power and he begins to get stronger. Nokia starts to get tired of Faye's house and wants to travel to his hut. He eventually convinces Faye to take him there. Faye decides to spend the night there. In the middle of the night, she gets a strange feeling and goes down to his main base to investigate. After some searching, she finds an alleged blood ritual site behind his wall. The next thing she knows, Nokia is next to her and he is angry. He ends up telling her everything, but he also tells her not to tell anybody. Faye finally comes out of hiding after a while and runs into Roxy. They end up arguing, and during this fight, Faye tells him about a time where she wiped out a whole village. She told Roxy not to mess with her because of this power. Nokia overhears and he decides he needs this power on his side. He takes her into his hut again and they end up teaming up, and Faye joins the blood coven that Nokia is a part of. Meanwhile, Roxy and Ash also officially team up. Roxy and Ash are also able to convince KJ and Marling to join their group, and Faye convinces Fishy to join them. In the middle of the night, Faye and Nokia trash Ash's apartment and steal lots of netherite and other things from Roxy. As the sun rises, they scramble to hide before Roxy and Ash see what happened. Faye doesn't make it back to her base, and she ends up running right in front of Roxy and Ash, and they chase her down. She says, "No, my barrier!" Roxy confronts her for the theft and destruction she caused, and she just laughs it off. Roxy also accuses her of being a part of the Blood Coven, and she hides that too. Later that day, though, Roxy finds their ritual site, and Nokia tells Roxy all about the Day of Prosperity and the blood god Athos. Roxy declares war on the Blood Coven and they just laugh at him. The next morning, Ash, Marling, KJ, and Roxy were all prepared to fight, and as soon as Nokia and Faye charged in, war ensues. There was chaotic fighting and Faye was willing to fight anyone except Marling. When she realized he was there, she tried to take him home. Nokia was annoyed with this and he pulled her aside. He told her not to hold back against Marling. The other team tried to threaten Marling to get Faye to back down, but she didn't care anymore. After the battle was over, Marling was upset, and they continued to find ways to defeat them. During the conversation, Ash snuck off to see what Faye and Nokia were up to. He saw Nokia trying to improve Faye. He barges in and confronts Nokia, but before he could get anyone else to help, Nokia says,
"Make Ash sleep."
Ash wakes up in a jail cell at the same ritual site from a few days ago. Faye and Nokia are on either side of him, and Fishy was there too. Roxy comes across this and immediately rushes to Ash's cell. Soon after he arrives, Roxy is put in a cell because
2 sacrifices instead of 1.
as the night continues on the day of prosperity, Faye all of a sudden releases Ash and Roxy and then talks to them about her life and how
To truly win, you have to lose. And to truly lose, you win.
she then surrounds herself in fire. She tries to call out to Roxy and the others, but he just slowly backs away, not knowing what to do and not trusting her. The last thing he hears is Faye screaming his name. The next morning, Roxy wakes up and Ash barges in, asking Roxy why he didn't do anything, and they have a huge argument.
You could have used your
I don't know the spell she used.
She didn't use a spell.
Why? How is
It's
that
just
supposed to
normal.
know that?
Cause you watch.
After, Roxy finds Nokia and confronts him for what he did and for being part of the Blood Coven. He seems to have no recollection of anything that happened. Roxy brings Nokia into his apartment to continue chatting, and Ash walks in on them. Roxy tries to tell Ash how Nokia doesn't remember anything, but Ash can't handle it anymore. He doesn't understand how he can trust the word of Nokia over everyone else even after what he did. Roxy decides they should just go see if Faye's back, and it turns out she was. Roxy confronts her about everything just as he did with Nokia, and it seems that they both don't remember anything. Roxy doesn't know what to believe anymore, and Ash doesn't understand why Roxy believed Nokia in the first place. Faye tries to get away, but the group keeps following her. She says,
I want to be alone.
then a blue circle that seems like a portal appears behind her. Everyone panics because they don't know what to do, and in a flash, Faye disappeared. All that information was probably very overwhelming, but thank you for making it to the end of the video. Make sure to check out Roxy SMP Reborn 3 when it comes out. Like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any episodes of Roxy SMP or any of my other videos. Check out my merch shop for some posters of this SMP, and I will see you all later. Bye, guys!